Alright, hello everybody. Today we are going to be making a graphic organizer for all of the rules with negative numbers. So what you're going to need is a piece of paper, at least 4 different colors of markers, and scissors. So first thing we're going to do is fold our paper in half like this. Crease the edge. Alright, so you have folded your paper in half. Now we're going to unfold it, lay it flat, and we're going to take the side and we're going to fold it to the middle crease, like this. Alright, you can see we have this side, we're folding it to the crease. Alright, then you can unfold it. Alright, so we just folded this in like so. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to take the edge and we're going to fold it into that crease in the middle. Alright. So now we folded it in half, like this. So it was 1, 2, and we folded each side into that middle crease. So now it looks like this. Alright, the last step is we're going to take the bottom and we're going to fold it up to the top in half again. So our final product looks like this. Now this is where you need the scissors. I am going to cut right along this line from here to the edge, but I'm only going to cut on the top flap. I don't want to cut the whole thing because then we'll cut it in half. So I'm going to cut from the middle on the crease to the edge, about as close as I can get. Alright, so what happens now is I have 2 flaps. Alright, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side by taking the flap and I'm cutting on the crease. Alright, so now I have something that looks like this with 4 openable flaps. Alright, so today we are only going to do addition and subtraction because that's what we're talking about right now. Later this week we will get into multiplication and division. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a color to be addition. I'm going to pick the blue color. Alright, so I'm going to use this. It's going to be from the top to the bottom. And I'm going to take one of these flaps and I'm going to write addition. It's like this, addition. Alright, and then I'm going to pick a color for subtraction. Okay, so I'm going to go directly below the addition one and I'm going to write subtraction. So now we have 2 flaps, one with addition and one with subtraction. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to open the addition flap. Alright, now there are 2 things that can happen when we're adding numbers. We can have the same sign or we can have a different sign. So at the top of this flap right here, the one that I flipped over, I'm going to write same sign at the top. Now in the middle one, I'm going to write different sign. Okay, so far, here's what I've got. Same sign on the side that I flipped open, same side, and then different side on the one on the inside. Alright, so we're going to talk about same sign addition first because that is the easiest. So with same sign addition, this is what I've got so far. Add the numbers and keep the same sign. Alright, now we're going to do a couple examples so that when you see this in your work, you know what to do. So let's say that the signs are both negative. So let's say we have a -5 plus a -8. Alright, so I have -5 plus -8. I put the parentheses around that -8 to make sure I'm reminding myself that that -8, this negative sign goes with the 8. All right. And now I'm going to add the 5 and the 8, and that's 13. Add the numbers, and then keep the same sign. So the signs on the 5 and the 8 are both negative, so I'm going to keep the sign negative. So negative 5 plus negative 8 equals negative 13. Same idea if they're both positive. If I have 2 plus 3, a positive 2 plus a positive 3, just regular adding, I add the numbers. 2 plus 3 is 5, and the sign is positive, so I don't have to write that sign. All right, so both negative. The answer is just the numbers added with a negative sign. 5 plus 8 is 13. They're both negative, so the sign is negative. If they're both positive, 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, now if the signs are different, right, so that's what I wrote in there. We're looking at the middle now. Subtract the numbers and take the sign of the bigger number. All right, so our examples here is, let's say that we had negative 15 plus 10. All right, so we have negative 15 plus 10. We want to look at those numbers and think, which number is bigger? Which one has a bigger magnitude? Well, 15 is bigger. 15 has a bigger magnitude. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a box around that 15 and the sign in front of it, because the sign tells me what the sign on the answer is going to be. So if the sign on the 15 is negative, the sign on the answer is going to be negative. And then I'm just going to subtract the bigger number and the smaller number. So 15 minus 10 is 5. So that is our answer. All right. So we did 15 has the bigger magnitude. It's the bigger number. And it is negative. So our answer is negative. And 15 minus 10 is 5. Another example is, let's say we have negative 32. And we are going to add 40. Right? So negative 32 plus 40. I'm going to look at those numbers, negative 32 and 40, and I'm going to say, 40 has the bigger magnitude. It's the bigger number, so we are going to put a box around the 40 and the sign in front of that 40 to remind us what the sign in the answer should be. So now I have a sign around the 40 and the positive sign, or the adding sign, in front of the 40. Because the 40 is positive, I'm going to know that my answer is positive. And then I'm going to subtract. 40 minus 32 gives us 8. So our answer is positive 8. All right, one more example is, let's do 5 plus a negative 8. Now, because the 8 is second and it's negative, I put parentheses around it to remind myself that that 8 is negative. Now, I'm looking at 5 and 8. 5 is smaller than 8, so I'm going to put a box around the 8 and the sign directly in front of the 8, which is the negative sign. That's the first sign in front of the 8. So the 8 has the bigger magnitude, it's the bigger number, so we're going to do 8 minus 5, and that's going to give us 3. Because the 8 is negative, our answer is also going to be negative. All right, so that's what you can do if the signs are different. If they're the same, you can just add them and then take the sign of both the numbers. All right, that's addition. That's what we're going to see the most of. So that one you're going to use a lot. Next, we're going to go to our subtraction. So I did that in red. I'm going to open this flap. Now, with subtraction, we generally like to make it into addition. So what we're going to do is, on this flap that I flipped over, so the one here, I'm going to write this sentence to help me remember what to do if it's a subtraction problem. All right, so here's what we got. Subtraction problems can be rewritten as addition problems by changing the subtraction sign to addition and changing the sign of the number being subtracted. This is really adding the opposite. All right, so now in this middle part, we are going to do some examples of what you might see with subtraction. So I'm going to write examples at the top. All right, so our first example I'm going to write is 8, or negative 8, minus negative 2. Because the negative 2 is at the end, I'm putting a parentheses around it to remind myself that the -2 is one piece and that subtraction sign is another piece. They're not the same. All right, so underneath that, I'm going to write, so can be rewritten. And now we're going to add the opposite. When we add the opposite, the sign on the first number does not change. So my -8 is going to stay the same. I'm going to change the subtraction sign to addition, and then I'm going to look at my -2. -2, the opposite of -2 is +2, so you can just write 2. All right, so we changed that problem from -8 minus -2 to -8 plus +2, or -8 plus 2. And now we have an addition problem. We're going to look at what kind. Are the signs the same or are they different? Well, we have a -8, and we have a +2, so they are different. So we're going to look at the different sign one. That tells us, so we're going to look for the bigger number. That's the 8, so I'm going to underline that. So the 8 is negative. I'm going to underline the negative and the 8. And then we're going to know that our answer has a negative answer. So I'm going to put a negative sign at the end because I know my answer is negative. And then I'm just going to subtract. 8 minus 2 gives me 6. So our answer is -6. All right, another example might be 4 minus 7. Okay, all right, can be rewritten. All right, so looking at our problem here, we're going to know that our 4 is going to stay the same. The sign on the 4 is going to remain positive, so we're going to rewrite our first number with the same sign, so 4, and we're going to add the opposite. So the subtraction sign becomes a positive. Now, if we're looking at our 7 here, this 7 is technically positive. So what the opposite of +7 is -7. And because that's after an addition sign, I'm going to put parentheses around it. Okay? So I have 4 plus -7. Now it's an addition problem. I'm going to go back up to my addition rules. Do we have the same sign or do we have a different sign? We have a +4 and a -7. So those are different signs. So I'm going to look for the bigger number. 7 is bigger, so I'm going to underline that. Because the 7 is negative, I know my answer is also going to be negative. And now to figure out what the number is, all I have to do is subtract. 7 minus 4 gives me 3. So my final answer is -3. All right, so that's all we're going to do today. So at the end, you're going to have two flaps, addition and subtraction. Addition has two sides, same sign and different sign. And then the subtraction section, we are just remembering that we want to rewrite subtraction as addition. To do this, we're going to add the opposite. Once we add the opposite, all of our problems are going to become addition problems, and we can use the top two flaps to figure out how to find our answer.